the 5 keys of how to be the calm in any storm and challenge that we may face in life. So this week's leadership tip is a really important one. We need to know as leaders how to remain calm in the face of danger, in the face of crisis, in the face of stress. And this is so critical because it's not only good for us and our health, but it's also a way that we can lead and inspire others to have a sense of security and safety and trust in us as we lead them through some of these challenges that we may face. Now, there's no magic formula of how to address stress and how to remain calm. There's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of doctors and a lot of therapists and psychologists that have a lot of advice, just like I do, regarding how to manage stress and how to remain calm under tough circumstances. And the biggest thing that I want to share in today's tip is it's not just remaining calm and how to remain calm, but most importantly is how do you maintain your mental, emotional, and your physical energy as you're going through a stressful situation. And being able to manage your energy through a stressful or crisis situation is really important because that's the energy that you're going to need to have the mental clarity and the focus to get yourself out of that situation or get you through it. So if you've been going through some tough challenges lately or a specific crisis that just came up for you, or maybe you've been battling with stress for a long time and not really sure how to handle stress in your life, then you don't want to miss today's video because we're going to talk about just that, about how we can better remain calm under tough situations and tough challenges and show our leadership strength through it. So stay tuned. Hey Globals, welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm Coach Belly, and I provide tips and advice to lead a more empowered life and inspire others to do the same. So if you like videos like this and you're inspired by my leadership tips, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you see all of my latest videos on leadership tips and things that will help you be more empowered in your life daily. So now let's just jump right into today's tip on being the calm in the storm of any crisis or challenging situation. Now, before I get into any kind of tip, advice, the how we do something, I'm really big about letting people know the what and the why behind we're learning something, because it's really the best way to understand and then be able to apply the information that you're about to hear today. And to begin with, I want to first have some common terminology about what is stress. And I want to specifically talk about one principle that describes why stress exists and how it operates within our minds and our bodies, and how stress affects us and all of our components as human beings. And then later, really understand what are those 5 keys that you can do and you can apply in your life so that you can remain calm during some tough challenges that you'll face and you'll continue to face, because it's life and there's a lot of unexpected things that are always going to be thrown at us. So let's go right into this topic. So let's first start and talk about the term stress. Now, stress basically is how our body reacts to different types of situations, dangers, risks, challenges. And some of those types of situations may be internal, like in our own minds, we see a situation and we assess it as dangerous or threatening to our well-being. And sometimes it's external. Maybe there's something out in the society, like right now we're facing this pandemic. That's an external factor that's causing stress. So there's different types of stress that our body reacts to. And I really want to hone in on the term that the stress is something that affects our bodies. So there is definitely a biological response that our bodies go through. There's chemical responses, and everything's affected within the human body when we're going under stress. So this is a really critical thing that I want to really emphasize. Now, the term stress was coined back in the 1930s. And there's many definitions out there of describing what stress is. But I want to specifically talk about this principle called the free energy principle. And this was initially introduced by a neuroscientist called Carl Friston. And in his principle, he talked about stress exists because the mind, the brain, is looking for ways to predict what's going to happen in order to ensure that its safety, its security, and its ability to survive. So when the mind sees a situation, a danger, maybe back in the caveman days, a tiger is going to be out there, and you want to be able to quickly assess, is this tiger going to kill me or is it going to be my friend? So the mind is constantly looking for ways to maintain its stability and its safety. And in layman's terms, the theory really applies to all of us and how we perceive certain stresses and certain threats in our lives. So if we see a situation and we can't predict a positive outcome, our brain generates a ton of energy. There's a lot of energy that gets rushed to the brain to be able to either consciously or subconsciously look for a way to solve that problem, to find a way to understand, okay, I'm going to be safe, I'm going to be secure. And this falls in line very clearly in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that one of the very first things that that we human beings need is a sense of safety and security. So this is why the brain reacts the way it does, because that level of uncertainty requires a certain level of energy in order to push through to figure out the solution of how am I going to survive. Now, the next thing I want to really go and explain is that there's three components of the brain and how the brain functions. And now, you guys didn't think you were going to have today a science lesson or a science refresher today, no. But it's important that we understand that the three components of the brain. And the first part of the brain is the neocortex, and this is the rational brain. This is the part of the brain that allows us to think on experiences, knowledge, information, and analyze what is the best decision I can make at this point in time. Now, this is the area of the brain that, for example, if something comes at us that seems threatening or stressing us out, the rational brain can think through possible solutions and possible reasons why this is stressing us out. Then there's the other part of our brain, which is we call the limbic system. And in the limbic system, we have what is the amygdala, which is where it's housed. It's in the limbic system area. Now, the amygdala is a part of our brain that the easiest way to describe it is that it gives thoughts and emotions to our meaning, and it gives meaning and emotions to our thinking, to our thoughts. So how we're perceiving something in our brain, it's given it some kind of meaning, some kind of emotion, which could be positive or negative. And then based on that is how our brains, our emotions, and our bodies are going to react to that information. Make sense? So the last part of the brain, and this is the part I want to really focus on the most, is called the primitive brain or the instinctual brain. And I've also heard this part of the brain called the selfish brain. And basically this is the survival part of our brain where it's instinctual, we're reacting, we're not really thinking through, we're just reacting to a situation. And this is what activates in our bodies the fight or flight response. So this is where the adrenaline kicks in, and a rush of energy comes to our body. And this is where you see people that are in danger, that they have this extra, superpower strength, speed, when they're feeling like they're being threatened. And this is not the kind of power or strength they would have under normal circumstances, because all of the energy that's within our body is being rushed to the areas that it needs in order to survive. Now, the problem with this is that when you're constantly under stress and you're constantly utilizing this energy to survive, other parts of your body, your mind, are being affected within your body, which then creates problems. And this is why you hear a lot of doctors and people talk about make sure that you know how to manage your stress management, because it's good for your health. So let's dig a little deeper. So if you're allowing your primitive brain, your selfish brain, to hijack your rational brain, right? So remember, you are in control of your thoughts. Your brain is not in control of you. So if you allow your primitive brain to always take over, even in circumstances where it's not really necessary, then it's taking its nutrients, it's taking the energy required for other parts of your body. So if it's constantly under stress and constantly feeding that energy to your brain to figure out, okay, how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to get through this stressful situation? It's taken up all of that, all the nutrients, all the energy from other parts of you that you need just to give it to your brain. And this is where you start seeing some illnesses and problems happen within the human body because of stress. For example, mentally, someone under constant stress or stressful situation may lose lack of concentration, may forget things, they can't memorize things, or forgetful about things, or they have brain fog. Also, it starts to affect you emotionally. This can be something as a little bit of sadness, some frustration, all the way to really serious medical ailments such as major depression, anxiety that people suffer from, and even panic attacks, because your body is not biologically stable. It's releasing all these hormones in your body to survive, and it's making you unstable. So that affects you not just in your mind, but it's also affecting you now in your emotions and your emotional state. Now, the other part, for some people may think, well, I can handle stress. I'm good. I don't think about it. I just kind of go through it. Well, sometimes the body can think for us. And even if you think you're handling your stress easily, let's see what's happening with your body. This is when you start seeing issues like back pain, neck pain. You start to have muscle aches, joint aches. Sometimes you may have headaches, problems sleeping, digestion problems, so problems using the bathroom. You may have problems, stomach aches. You may even also have high blood pressure. And unfortunately for some people, stress can get to the point where it starts to attack their cells and they develop cancers. It's a combination of things that can cause all of these, because if you're under stress, for example, you may be eating all the wrong things and you're not providing your body and your brain the nutrients it needs to manage the stress that you're going under. So if you're not really taking care of your body before stressful times and during stressful times, then these types of physical conditions can actually happen to you because of stress. So I'm not a medical doctor, but this is just a little bit that I have learned and I have experienced and seen in the lives of people that I know and things that I've read about. So it's really important that you really step back and think about what part of the brain are you going to access when you're going through stress? Are you going to allow your primitive brain to just hijack and take over? Or are you going to really stop and think through, okay, I want to be rational about what I'm going to do, and I want to take care of myself and my body as I'm going through the stressful times. So really, this is so important because, one, you want to be able to maintain your energy, your mental, emotional, and physical energy intact and ready for when tough situations are coming to you. And number two, when you're able to really maintain your energy, then you're able to think very clearly. You're able to see all the options. You don't get tunnel vision. You don't get brain fog. You're able to really see, is this really a problem? What are the risks here? What are some possible solutions? And how do I want to go about to solve this? And sometimes you just have to just wait and think through before you react to a tough situation. Most importantly is also you want to be the leader that others can look up to and that can feel safe around. So if you're freaking out at work, if you're completely isolating yourself from others, from your team, or if you're part of a team like your peers and you're not in control or you feel like you're just gonna just step out and just not engage, then you're not really instilling any kind of safety and security for those that are working with you, those around you, especially if you're in charge of that specific team. So being able to keep calm not only is it good for your health, your mental, emotional, and physical health, but it's also very good for you as far as being able to help others see you as the example of how to manage yourself during stressful times. So just to give you a personal example, I remember at one point that I was going through a very tough situation at work. I had a toxic boss, and in the future I'll be making a video regarding how to handle toxic bosses. But anyways, so I had a really toxic boss, and he was very mentally and emotionally abusive, not just to me, but other people on the team. And it was just threatening basically my well-being and also threatening my job. And it was a whole year that I had to deal with. There's a lot of stress. And on top of that, I had other stressors in my life that were on top of that. So sometimes when stress comes, it doesn't just come in one form. It may be multiple things coming at you. It could be at work, could be at home, could be friends, could be your health, could be many things that are just coming at you at once. And you're like wondering, how can I handle all of this at the same time? It's a lot. So I remember there was a point where I wasn't handling my stress very well, and it was difficult to think clearly. But then it came to a point where I was able to really just step back and allow my rational brain to take over, and got the help that I needed to work through the situation, and eventually things worked out. But it was very stressful. And what helped me was that I did find someone to talk with. I looked for solutions. I took care of my body. I made sure that I stayed physically active, and then I was feeding myself the right nutrients and looking for downtime to clear my mind on a regular basis so that I could walk into work every day and manage my team and inspire them to work and do the things that we needed to do, but at the same time be able to handle the pressure that I was getting from this boss, who eventually left the company. But regardless, the point is that these things happen, and we have to really stop ourselves from just reacting to situations and look for ways of how do I gain my mental energy so that I can handle the situation moving forward. So that kind of leaves us with a nice foundation of what stress is. We learned a little bit about the free energy principle of how we as human beings are always looking for ways to anticipate or predict some kind of positive outcome, and that really takes a lot of our energy. And we learned a little bit about how stress and how that energy can get pushed away from other parts of our bodies that then can affect us and create illnesses within our minds, emotions, and our bodies. So it's critical that we understand how to keep calm and how to manage our energy so that we can get through these tough situations. So let's jump in now finally into the 5 keys of how to be the calm in the storm of any crisis. So the very first thing that I want to advise you, from things I've learned, read, studied, and my personal experience, most importantly, I could tell you it works if it doesn't work, is number 1, you want to stay initially still and calm. We don't want to initially just jump in and go with a fight or flight where you're just I'm just going to fight it or I'm just going to run away. So you just want to just stay in the middle for a minute. You want to stay calm, and the ways so you can do that is take a deep breath. Breathing is everything because it brings oxygen into your body. It calms your mind. So you want to just take a deep breath and just wait and assess the situation and really ask yourself, okay, let's see what the problem really is. Let's not overreact or underreact. You want to really see the situation for what it really, really is. So you don't want to get sucked into the wind. It's like if you're going outside, you walk outside and there's a storm going on and you have to get out there for whatever reason. You want to think through, okay, what's the weather like? What do I need to prepare to go out there? I don't want to get sucked in by the winds of the specific storm. So I need to assess, okay, what's the need for me to go out there and how do I do that in the safest possible way? So the same thing goes to your storms in life. You want to assess the weather. You want to really gauge the environment, and you want to see what equipment do you need to go out into that storm so that you survive and that you don't get sucked into the winds. The second piece, which ties nicely with the first part, and we talked about it just quite a bit, about the free energy principle, is how do you preserve your energy? So how do you preserve your mental, your emotional, and your physical energy so that you are ready and prepared? And you don't want to wait until the moment of crisis and stress to start preserving your energy. You want to prepare like an elite athlete. I love using running as one of my examples, because when you're preparing for a race and a run, especially long distance running, you have to learn how to preserve your energy while you're training, and also be able to preserve it when you're actually in the middle of the race. So a lot of things that athletes do is that they get enough sleep, they eat the right nutrients, the right foods, they exercise, so they put stress on their body to a certain point, so they build muscle, but they also have rest cycles. The same thing goes for you as a human being, in the human mind and the human emotions, is that what are you doing physically also to prepare yourself to preserve the energy that you need? And so that talks through like physically, like getting enough sleep, eating the right nutrients, but emotionally, mentally, what are you doing to preserve your energy? If you're worried about something and you let it ruminate in your mind for so long, then it's harder to really address it because it's just kind of spinning in your head. But if you're able to write it down, get a journal, you can write it, you can draw a picture of it, you can record it, whatever it feels comfortable for you. But journal your concerns down, write them down and look at them for what they really are. And then once you're able to see them on paper, you can really clearly identify and start to really figure out, well, what strategies can I put in place? But the first thing is you want to be able to preserve that energy. Just put it down and just let it sit for a while. Also, different ways that you can preserve your energy is to clear your mind daily. So find some downtime where you shut off your social media, you shut off your phone, whether it's through prayer, meditation, whether it's going for a long run or a workout, whatever, or listening to music or playing music, whatever it is that you need to do to clear your mind and shut off any kind of stimulus that doesn't let you think clearly. Sometimes we are in this digital age where we're bombarded with information all the time. And we're constantly consuming information, and which could feed into some of our fears and concerns. Sometimes it's better just to clear our minds, find some time in the morning, sometimes before you go to bed. At least I suggest an hour before you go to bed, and just shut off your social media, shut off your phone. Trust me, I'm not perfect at this. I do have my phone sometimes before I go to bed, but I try to at least shut it down so that I have some time to really preserve my energy for any situation that may arise. Now, the third key is that you want to prepare for the unexpected. I mentioned a little bit about how to prepare for the unexpected in the second part of the second key that I gave around preserving energy. But I want to get into a little bit more detail regarding preparing for the unexpected physically. So you want to start physically getting active, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's doing a little bit of strength training or yoga, some kind of physical activity to really get that physical energy out of your system, to relax the body and to prepare the body to have the stamina to sustain any kind of stress that may come. Like we talked earlier, the brain is feeding off nutrients and energy from all parts of the body when it's under stress. So if your body physically is not active and you're not physically fit, or you're not really taking care of your body with the right things, the right nutrients, then you're not going to be prepared for the unexpected. And this is when people get sick and they have illnesses because they're not ready for it physically. It's interesting because this is something also that, going through military training, we are constantly looking at ways of how do we stay physically fit. We train and we test every year. The military does to sustain any kind of environmental stress, physical stress, but also there's the mental stress that we also have to handle when there's tough situations. So think about what kinds of physical things you can start doing to help preserve your energy and to build that stamina you're going to need to face these tough challenges. Another part of preserving your being able to prepare for the unexpected is contingency planning. So if there are things that you're worried about, take out that list you're going to journal about of the things that you're worried about and you're thinking about every day, and really sit down and say, okay, is this really a problem? And if so, what kind of strategies and methods do I need to put in place and implement and plan for, so that if these things do happen, this is what I'm going to do. And this is some of the things that people may do. Like, for example, you may see in some buildings like fire drills. All of a sudden there's this surprise fire drill because they want to know how people will react under a fire. Are they going to leave to the right door? Are they going to report? How they're going to handle when a fire happens? It's a crisis, right? So the same thing applies in your daily life. So what are some of those potential crisis situations that you're concerned about and that you want to be prepared for? And here's the other part of the other side of the spectrum is sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. Like, we didn't know, for example, this pandemic of Corona was going to happen, but here it is, right? And so I think part of preparing for the unexpected is to learning to be okay of not having all the answers and not being in control. You can't control what you can't control. So even if this is why preparing for the unexpected and preserving your energy and having it ready, because there's some things that you're just not going to be able to control and be able to change. So you want to learn to just be okay of not being in control and just daily telling yourself, like, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And we're just going to keep forward. And if you can't do that on your own, which can be difficult for some people, I mean, there's definitely, you can reach out to a partner or friend. Maybe you can have a coach or psychologist, someone that you can talk to help you work through your mental blocks around how do I prepare for the unexpected and how do I learn to accept when I don't know what the answer is going to be, and be okay to know that even though I'm not sure what the outcome is going to be, I'm going to assume that it's going to be a good one. And which leads us to the last part of preparing for the unexpected, which is focus on a positive outcome. Now, the mind doesn't know the difference between the reality and a thought. So the more you think about something, the more real it becomes. So instead of visualizing the worst possible outcome, work on visualizing the best possible outcome. When you start to visualize the best possible outcome, then you are able to start taking actions. Now your energy is driven towards taking actions that are going to help you get to that positive outcome. So versus trying to ruminate and worry about all the possible worst case scenarios, well, you're wasting energy. You're wasting mental energy trying to find out how this is all going to go wrong, when you can put more of that energy towards what can go right and how do I, build my strategy to make things come out right for me in the end. So that's the fourth part of the fourth key of how to remain calm, is to being able to focus on that positive outcome. So this may be easier said than done. So what you can do to help you with tip number 4 is this tip number 5. So looking for evidence of success in your life. Sometimes we human beings have a very, very short memory. We forget about all the things that we've actually have accomplished and things that we've been able to overcome. And I am definitely been guilty of this many times in my life and definitely have gotten better. I remember a point where I was going to quit my job and start something completely new. And I was very afraid of failure, that, okay, is this going to even work out for me? And one of my really good friends, I've known her now for more than 20 years, and we were having this midnight phone call through my moment of crisis. And she said to me, "Belly, when have you really failed? When have you really failed in your life?" And I had to think about that. And I want you to think about that. Is, even when you've fallen and you've made mistakes and tough things have happened to you, look at where you are right now. You're still alive and you haven't stopped trying. So you haven't failed yet. You haven't failed until you stop trying completely. That's really the first part of understanding that you can get through this tough situation. And so the fifth key that I want to leave you with is that you want to look for evidence of success. So think back in your life when you have gone through a tough scenario and look at where did I succeed? How did I succeed? And why did I succeed? What were the things that I was applying at that time that I could also apply to my current situation right now? What were some of the good things? Because sometimes we do things that maybe helped us get through, but it wasn't the healthiest. So you can go back and you can assess, how did I succeed and what do I need to apply now so that I can do it in a healthy and a positive way to get myself out of the situation, or at least through it. So as we've learned we've learned a lot of information today, really a lot about how stress affects us, how the human body and the human brain works. And now we just learned these 5 keys that it's really important that we learn to apply them. And we know that being able to manage our stress under crisis or challenges, not only does it affect our health, but it affects so many people around us as well. So we really need to be cognizant and conscious about how we're managing it. So now that you understand the science behind it, you know that you do have some control, and you don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to feel bad about yourself when you're having a tough day and you don't really feel like getting out of bed, or you're feeling overly anxious and you're like, oh, why can't I just snap out of it? Now you understand the science. Now you understand that it's completely normal that you feel that way at times. But now that you know, and now that you're conscious about how the brain works, then you can start taking control and not allowing your primitive brain to just hijack, and you can be more rational. You can be more rational around the things that you want to do and you want to think through. So by preparing ourselves and understanding how to take control of the brain and being able to prepare ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally, now we're ready to be the calm in the storm. Now we're ready to move forward in any kind of tough situations that we may face. Remember, the important thing is that as you're going through the storm is that you don't give up. You don't want to give up, and you don't want to rush into things. You only have failed, like I said earlier, when you either stop trying or you give up, or you rush too quickly into action because you don't think through of that final decision. And it brings to mind an example. I was taking my guitar lesson yesterday, and I was so excited. I was playing this new song, a simple song, and I was so excited that I was not making any mistakes, that I was getting towards the end, and I started making mistakes because I was like rushing through the end, and it's like I didn't stay calm. I got overly excited and overly anxious that I wanted to finish it perfectly, and I didn't, because I rushed to the end. And like Lao Tzu said in the Tao, he said that rushing into action, you fail. Trying to grasp things, you lose them. Forcing a project to completion, you ruin what was almost ripe. Therefore, the master takes action by letting things take their course. He remains as calm at the end as at the beginning. So don't rush into a situation when you're feeling stressed. Don't try to harvest something before it's ready, before it's ripe. And don't give up before you hit the finish line. Keep going towards the end and remain calm in the beginning and in the end. Therefore, how are you going to remain calm during the storms that life may throw your way? Type your comments below and let me know your thoughts. And also leave a heart if this video resonates with you, and share it with someone who may need it, because maybe they're going through some tough, challenging times and may need to hear this message so that they can also remain calm and manage through any kind of crisis or challenge that they may be facing today or in the future. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.